Okay, so now we're ready to assemble the motor mount assembly. I've actually got started on it here. I've attached my tubes to the radial mount. You can see that their distance roughly lines up. They don't have to be perfect length. Roughly lines up with where we're going to want them. I have my motor mount block, and I put the holes in it off of the radial mount, using that for a template, and squeeze that down into place.
Go.
Okay, I haven't glued the tubes into the EPP motor mount block. They're still loose. So at this point, with the prop on, obviously set on the table, and just get your two views so that the prop is parallel with the table. That's how we're going to get our thrust angle right. So there's one side. This side's off there, so just going to pull it into place. I'm using my eyeball, but you can also, of course, stand a ruler on both sides next to it to check a little more precisely. And there, that looks pretty even. And that's off again. And just do that a couple times until you got the two directions of it looking parallel with the table. Now we're ready to glue it. And to glue this in, I'm just going to use this Bob Smith Super Gold thin and just put drops on the tubes. And I squeeze it sideways a little bit. And just give it some time for that thin to soak down into the EPP. And then I'm going to put some drops on the back side on the holes that I put all the way through the motor mount block. And once again, let it dry naturally. Don't use kicker on this, it will melt the foam and it just won't be as strong. Give it some time to soak in and dry. Okay, I placed this into position and some of my glue leaked out, so it's already stuck in place. I didn't get to really show you that, but simple, obviously. Just place it into the fuselage where it goes. Once again, use the thin CA, wick some down the sides, down the back. I would have already put some medium CA on the firewall before placing it in. A couple drops on each of the three sides, and then I'll use some of this medium also on top of it and let gravity do its thing. And the thin actually helps the medium wick down into place if it's already in there. And once again, just let it dry naturally. I would not use kicker on it. It can make too much heat and burn the foam. Now the motor mount's in and the fuselage is ready to sheet. Okay, before I sheet this aft top section of the fuselage, I got a couple tabs of Scotch tape here, and I'm going to just temporarily tape the rudder into position, staying out of the way of where we were going to sheet. Now it's locked in straight and ready to put the sheeting on from here forward. Okay, here's the piece out of the kit, or if you have a scrapped piece, if you're making it from scratch. I just lay this alongside and see how much I'm going to need here and make a small mark with a knife blade. And okay, I'm doing this by eyeball here. I'm not setting a good example, but there's going to be my piece. for the sheeting. Okay, here's the piece out of the kit, or if you have a scrapped piece, if you're making it from scratch. I just lay this alongside and see how much I'm going to need here and make a small mark with a knife blade. And okay, I'm doing this by eyeball here. I'm not setting a good example, but there's going to be my piece for the sheeting. Okay, I have well, I did this side already, but I just put a mark with my blade where the back is and where the front is, where it needs to be trimmed off. And I'll just stick my ruler on here, my flexible metal ruler. Bend it down in the position like so. If you leave a little bit of extra, it's not a problem to sand or shave it off. I'll just run my knife through there a few times. That's all there is to that. Okay, so it's roughly done. It's got a little bit left hanging. Just use some fine sandpaper and run it along there. Until it's flush. There it's flush. Nice and flush. And then do a little bit of radiusing that you're going to do at this point before we wick more of the thin CA in there to get a really good bond. I just took the corner off of there. Corners off of there, that's good enough. Now I'll take my thin CA, unless it's dried up already. Nope. Put a drop there, put a drop there, do that again, and just let it run down. Let gravity do its thing. I'll give that a minute to dry, and then we'll cut our canopy access hatch. Okay, I've cut a piece to fit right here in between the canopy and the battery compartment, and I'm going to do the same way I did this. I'm going to just glue it on lightly and then trim off the excess. So put some on the edge back here where it meets the canopy, and glue only up to here. I like that. Okay, I'm just going to trim that down like that, and a little more of our friend's sandpaper here. There are flush, flush, got a little bit up on that corner. Alright, good to go. Ready for the next step.